sung by Edward Meeker, Edison Record. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Welcome everybody to our baseball-themed open mic. First ever. We're very excited to see how this goes on the 135th anniversary of Casey at the Bat. And we're delighted that we have one local featured poet, my husband Ed Dzitko, who many years ago gave me this jersey. And the only thing I knew about baseball was Andy Pettit. It's the only thing that mattered. Maybe a little bit later. And we have Sara, deBeer, and her husband Joey, who are here from West Hartford. And Sara brought some items I hope you'll get a chance to look at while you're here. Her family owns a baseball factory, and she's going to tell you about that when she's the featured when she's up here. So get a look at that. It's pretty cool stuff. And we have Bill Moorhead all the way out from Guilford, Connecticut. So we've got people who come from pretty far to be a part of this. It's a pretty special night because we also had people who couldn't be here because it's vacation time, but wanted to be a part of it. So some of them sent things in or did video recordings, and we're going to kind of go back and forth with the mixed media. So that's pretty exciting. Introducing our first featured poet is our daughter, Adela. Come on in. Sandy Carlson. She is 24. 15 years ago, we found a baseball over in Hollow Park. And we thought, I wonder what's in there. So I said to Ed, we're not neurotic or anything, but maybe we've been preparing for this open mic for 15 years. And we would like to just show you this brief video, and then Sara deBeer will entertain you with her poetry about baseball.
We found a baseball in the weeds at a ball field near our house and set out to see why a baseball is so hard. First we cut through the cowhide cover sewn together with 216 stitches of red thread. Because rubber cement is used to help the cowhide stick to the wound part of the ball, the cover was a little tough to get off. When we pulled, most of the fine white string that is wrapped around blue-gray yarn came off too. Because we had cut through the cover stitches in white string, the yarn first came off in little pieces, but soon we were unwinding the ball by pulling off long stretches of yarn. The two biggest pieces were more than 55 feet long. When we had removed 53 yards of yarn, we found an orange rubber ball. It wasn't very bouncy. We peeled the orange layer like we were peeling an orange. Inside we discovered a black rubber layer. When we opened the black layer, we found a cork ball about the size of a quarter and about 7/8 of an inch high. So, in stripping the baseball to its core, we learned that its hardness comes not from the little cork ball at its core, but from the yards and yards of yarn wrapped around it. Who'd have thought?
The baseball factory. I need my father to open the heavy door which separates the hushed world of Eleanor and Virginia and their wooden desks and their underwood typewriters from the throbs and hums as machines cut leather and wind wool and press kapok. Squeeze my father's hand. Inhale the heady mixture of horsehide and rubber and cork, and travel to the kingdom of kapok. First, stroke the silky strands, Then watch a machine bind large K-pop clumps into cylinders with tufts of hair. They look like dolls, but another machine presses them into spheres. Next, the barrel filled with crumbles of cork. Run fingers through the crumbles. Inhale their pungent perfume. Soon crumbles will be pressed into hard spheres. The winding machines squat side by side, each adding tight layers of yarn until the last wraps each sphere with thin string. Fritz, is that your middle one? She's so big. The stitchers ooh and ah over how I've grown. A needle in each hand, they stitch the distinctive seam of a baseball or softball. The covers are elongated figure eights. Clamps hold pairs of covers in place while their hands mesmerize me. Such speed and precision. Leaving the hubbub of voices behind, we make our final stop. Watch the levers and belts lift flat boxes open cardboard doors. Once a ball is placed inside, more levers glue the box shut. I could stand and watch all day, but my father has to get back to work. I whispered goodbye to Virginia and Eleanor, give my dad a kiss, and walk out into the ordinary world. She wasn't planning to open with that one, but how could I not after we saw the deconstruction of all that. I didn't happen to mention that, but we love those little balls. There was a whole barrel full of them, and they were like super balls. Mm-hmm. And so we could, until it drove other people crazy, we would bounce them around in the baseball factory. So anyway, this you can take a look more closely at the clincher, which this next poem is about. The softball called clincher. Slow pitch softball, seemingly seamless, its stitches hidden beneath a zigzag that joins together covers of leather with ingenious edges. It solves the problem of stitches which split when a softball hits the punishing pavement of hard city streets. This softball called clincher, coveted in Cleveland, Chicago, Cincinnati, invented in Albany by my father's father, Frederick deBeer. And for my last poem, we're hang out on my family front lawn. Batting practice. I grip the bat right hand on top of left, feet placed firmly just as my dad showed me. I'm on the patch of grass we've agreed to call home plate. A hit is better than a foul, but a foul is better than a whiff, because if I miss the ball, I'll have to throw down the bat and chase the ball as it rolls down our driveway toward the street. A quick glance at first base, the maple tree, then a nod to show my dad I'm ready. It's a good day. There are invisible runners at the maple tree, the magnolia bush, and the corner of the slate path that leads to our front door. A line drive could bring them all home. but no luck. A pop fly easily caught by my dad. The batting practice is over.
Next we have Bill Moorhead from Guilford, Connecticut to share some poetry with us. Thanks, Bill.
I have 5 poems and they're about pitching, because that's what I do. Ed knows the game better, but I know pitching. And so, in it, there are some slang words which I'll identify for you so that you don't get lost. And 2 of the poems were inspired by Chuck Berry. And the first one is the theater for the right kind of crazy. And there are 2 slang words. One's an atom, which is a very hard hit directly at a player at a field doesn't even have to move. Or a seeing eye, which is a ground ball that just manages to get through 2 or 3 inches one way or the other and it's out at first. So this is the theater for the right kind of crazy. If you're going to play the lead in this drama, if you're going to stand above, alone out there, if you're going to bait the bear, then you better call on the beast in your belly. Give no prisoners, offer no quarter, expect none. And if you can bear the grandstand suffocating sigh, when you're being hit so hard the very pines catch fire, when the atoms and the seeing eyes don't go your way and teammates avert their eyes, but you still grab your hummingbird heart and force it and your dead arm to carry on when you have nothing, then maybe, just maybe, you have the right kind of crazy. This is the moment of the pitch. The seam of baseball has no beginning and no end. Hold it like an egg, oval of life. As I turn my hand, space comes together, drifts apart, returns, infinity in my glove, eternity in every stitch, for a time clock that ticks only for hours. As the ball leaves my hand, I live the air it passes through, knowing that pitching can be the intersection of math and life when you can predict anything except those moments that change everything. One thing I might have mentioned at the beginning is pitching is attitude. You have to be very aggressive. I sort of hinted at that first poem. But weakness also shows up. And so this poem is Wild Bill makes an entrance in a game that's tied in the 8th. As I was hibernating back in deepest right, I saw a pitcher on the hill, grinding kind of tight. His arm is out of gas, hanging like a rag. The other team's motivating round him round the bags. No, coach, don't look at me. No, coach, don't call on me. Pitcher keeps on walking batters till the sacks are packed. I see it now. He turns his cap bill, looking for eyeball contact. Coach bounds up the dugout steps, looking for relief. I see 2 fingers pulling on his jersey sleeve. No, coach. No, not me. No, coach. Please leave me be. Wild Bill, coach. Throw strikes. Up in the pitcher's mound, I'm staring, glaring in. First pitch slams a hypersonic laser beaming in, rips our third baseman's chest like a mass-sized spear, drops him to his knees like a double pole-axe steer. From the prone position, he picks the ball and sweeps the base, that's 1. Then hyperventilating Moonhark lob toss to the catcher, who makes a sweeping slap tag on the runner, makes him pay. 1 pitch, double play. Next pitch to a batter, I crick my head around. I see a rocket moonshot heading out of town. But I cheated in center field. Has seen it all, pulls a Willie Mays and snags it at the wall. Now back in the dugout with my teammates, loud high fives, man pats on the back, but I can see them roll their eyes. Man, this guy's getting pounded so hard, we'll be running around all night. Wild Bill, coach, back and right. This one I'm very sensitive to because I just went through my 6th and 7th cortisone dimexazomorph, what do you call it, in arm and knee, so I can play in a couple of weeks again. And it's, you know, people complain when their arm is shot when they're young kids, but it's a little hard for me to make that complaint. But this is arm. It's not coming back, I know. My arm loose in the shoulder socket. Kid, it happens so quick. The ping and nips that should put me on edge, I overlook as I cleat my etchings on the side of the hill, well aware they won't outblast the rain. I turn back to breathe and gaze at crows on an overhead chattering telephone wire. They see the fire ants sprawling up and down my frizzled arm. And though I'll wash again with icy heat, soon they'll crawl up around my throat and choke me like some sparkling garret. But I'll swear my eyes still hold some light. I mentioned to you that I've been getting all these shots in the fourth. I'm going to be back. This is the attitude I'm going to take when I'm back in about 4 weeks. And it's full of slang, fastball slang. High cheese, believe it or not, that's a fastball in. And smoke, gas, BBs, aspirin, these are all fastball terms. A dish refers to the home plate, and the back door is a breaking ball that you throw on the opposite side of the plate from the batter, hoping to sneak it across just a little bit and get a strike you don't deserve. Maybe I do deserve it. But this is high cheese. I got some hot shot smoke and gas. I'm cutting sliders, I'm tossing trash, flipping aspirin BBs up and in, snap on the back place. You can hear me spin. Now you can't touch me. Not while I'm slinging high-class cheese and looping long gone down fadeaways, up and in, like a cool breeze. I spin a mad dog eyeball. I can groove up slow, buzz like a souped up jitney. I can holy roll. I got them whiffing at the dish back door, slapping on their bed sticks. They can't take no more. I'm snake sliding like a hungry haint. I make them swing at what they see but ain't. O2 on their top gun, bottom 9, snap on the back place. You can hear me whine, you can't touch me. Not while I'm slinging high-class cheese and looping long gone down fadeaways, up and in, like a cool breeze. I should have mentioned, that is some of the teams I played for. And a friend of mine, who's quite an artist, did that. And probably later on this year, I'll give her some of the other ones I have on other teams that I played on. But that's what it is, and that's why it's there.
Thanks, Bill.
I have a friend who's a really first-class poet, and he's on the West Coast, and I asked him if he would do a poem for this, and he wrote a poem about Bob Gibson and some of you guys who know a little bit about baseball. He introduces him, but Kevin, as I say, is a really first-class poet. I think you really like this.
Hi, everybody. Very, very grateful to Bill Moorhead for asking me to read a poem, a baseball poem, of course. I'm wearing my baseball shirt. This is a St. Louis Cardinal shirt, kind of vintage. And this is a poem called Message. It's about and after the Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Gibson. He was one of the greatest pitchers in the history of baseball, had the lowest ERA in a single season, and was a ferocious competitor. As an African American in mid-century US, he had quite a bit of difficulty in his life. I tried to describe what it's like to be any pitcher, and then try to get at Bob Gibson's great competitive spirit. Poem is called Message, after Hall of Fame pitcher Bob Gibson. Before it becomes voice, the arm hears the howl, waits for breath, waits out the eyes, staring through history for the sign, its length, a still twitch. Each cell's urge to survive, the heart hurling its breath out of rage, the hurtling rush before delivery, the catcher's signal finger pointed into the dirt, a direction, a dare. Then the rocker step back, the right ham contracting. Next, the pulse again, each quad clenching, the left knee risen skyward, lift, intent on the coming drop into thrust. The leg rocks forward in its long lunge plateward, the right arm cocked as the hip rotates, as if to throw the arm itself. Limb become missile. Then the blurred advance, spikes gouging the foremound's clay. An instant of blood once more surged at the fingertips of the opening hand. The ball launched as message. Then the arms pained breaking. Thanks again to Bill. Here's to baseball.
Alrighty, we have our next featured poet, Ed Dzitko, who's produced all these video pieces for you to enjoy. So thanks for doing that, Ed, and making it nice.
I'm gonna have a little bit of fun up here, and then I wrote an alternate reality poem for Casey that I'll wrap up with. But this one starts, every year it comes. Every year it comes, sure as April rains, sure as May flowers, sometimes in late March, sometimes in lands far from home. How can it yet come, you wonder, on still cold, blustery days, as you search your field of vision for green, for lushness that would coax shoeless fun. Like clockwork, though, it comes, as solstices bring spring, then summer, then fall. The boys arrive ready to play, to chase dreams, titles, and glory. Yes, opening day comes. Bundle up, turn on the radio. Winter doldrums depart with shouts of, play ball, holy cow, steer, Ike. Play-by-play fills the air, the catcher's mitt pops, the bat cracks, the crowd shouts, all's right with the world again when baseball is back. Bill talked about pitching, and Sara was talking a little bit about bunting, and batting, and this is a little bit about base running. I think the next two are base running. This is called ducks on the pond. A runner on second, a runner on third are not just runners, or haven't you heard? A runner on second, a runner on third are sometimes ducks to a baseball nerd. Yes, a runner on second, a runner on third, ducks on the pond, that's what they are. Pitch after pitch, swing after swing, they wait to soar, they wait to score. So come on, batter, stop making them wait. A single gets them home, those ducks on the pond. A quick one called Shoelaces. Crack. A line drive in the gap, gotta run, no time to nap. I round first, going for two, the ball's still rolling, yippee-doo. It bounds all the way to the wall, and I might just touch them all. Coach is waving frantically now, I can feel it in my bones, and how. But then something trips me. I'm on the ground and I can see the catcher's caught the ball, and I've taken quite the fall. Seems I've just learned a valuable lesson. All it took was one lousy session. Before trying to run the bases, be sure to tie your darn shoe. Okay, so this is All for Love, in honor of the 135th anniversary of Casey at the Bat. Would the sun be shining oh so bright? Would bands be playing throughout the night? Why, there'd be music and laughs, and in children's shouts, there'd be joy in Mudville had Casey not struck out. What's that you say, you can't quite see it? Well, come along with me, let's sit for a bit. I'll give us a look, I'll turn back the clock, and I guarantee you'll see Casey a base hit knock. Picture now 1888, the outlook dim, the game very late. Mudville's down 4-2, and the crowd is truly blue. Their team's a hit, and they know too well that's true. With 2 outs and 2 strikes on a batter, they hope the count this time doesn't matter. Casey's watched 2 beautiful pitches dart by, not sure why himself. Around the field he casts an eye. He sees Flynn standing at third, Blake leading off second. When the ump says, let's play, he beckons to Casey. The tension's as thick as it was all those years ago, and our stage is now set, we're ready to go. Our guy Casey, his face stern, cold, full of hate, sets to hit as he pounds the bat upon the plate. The pitcher sets, winds, delivers quite a throw, and this time swinging hard, Casey delivers a mighty blow. The crack of the bat can be heard for miles as the crowd roars, faces full of smiles. Flynn trots home, and while Blake streaks in too, and Casey's running so hard he loses a shoe. On these days, ages ago, they play without fences, and that can be quite taxing on outfield defenses. But on this day, the crowd spills round the pole to pole, right field to left. There's a people wall with hardly a hole. As Casey rounds first, the ball skips on the grass. The lady in the wall lifts her foot to let the ball pass. She puts her hand to her mouth and gazes up at the sky. What has she just done for the love of a guy? A fielder nears the rolling ball as Casey nears third. He can tell the game's over by the cheering he's heard. He scoops it up and walks back through the gap. In our girl's hands, he places the ball with the tip of his cap. Many a man and child rush from the stands to the plate to pat Casey's back and tell him he's so great. But standing there tall, peering over them all, Casey yearns to see that girl with the ball. When from a distance their bright eyes meet, Casey blows her a kiss, ever so sweet. She blushes and spins and walks straight away, leaving mighty Casey the glory of the day. So there you have it, under blue skies above. Game day at Mudville was all about love. And every day since, it's been that way too, for Casey, his lady, and their town of 2002. Thank you.
Our next piece is Caitlin Fosford Tucker. She is away on vacation, but she recommended a poem that she loves about Chuck Knobloch of the Yankees, about Pettit's time. Take it away, Kit.
Hi, my name's Caitlin Tucker, and I'll be reading Devin Kelly's When I Think of How Chuck Knobloch Sometimes Could Not Throw the Ball to First Base, published in Hobart on April 1st, 2022. It's hard, I think, to do one small thing well. Sometimes I wake in the soft light of just after dark to make the coffee and spill the grinds from the day before all over the floor. I stop at the store on the way home from work and forget the oil when all I really needed was oil. I've lost 12 plants to neglect when they only cared for just the slightest bit of water. As a kid, I watched Chuck Knobloch double pump his arm toward first. I watched him sail a throw far over every player's head. I watched him stand alone in disbelief. I laughed then and pretended I could be someone better than someone failing. There is one story of the world that I have spent my whole life trying to erase. I still cry a little bit at every ache of me that feels like a blemish. I still hurl every small cliche at my waking body to tell myself I am all right. Even when the world is a wound, I am wound up in it. If it possible, as some say, for life to be perfect, then why does the rhythm of a heart sound so anxious? Dear God of the stubbed toe, God of the friend's birthday once forgotten, God of the missed call, the bad memory you cannot shake, the jostled stranger's shoulder, the one day you are too tired to be joyful. Dear God of the recipe that calls for one more pinch of salt than you have, forgive us this world that leaves us unforgiven.
It's amazing when you dig into baseball poetry, what a range it is and how it touches people's hearts, and it's a metaphor for life. It's amazing. So we'll move into our open mic. If people have a poem they'd like to share, come on up, and we'll do that, and then we'll close our gathering with a reading of Casey at the Bat. All right. Is anybody interested in come on up?
Hello, my name is Mark Carrington, and I dabble in poetry, but I've never written a baseball poem. I do, however, have a wonderful song lyrics written by a Chuck Brodsky, who was a big Philadelphia Philly fan, and he's now moved to Asheville, North Carolina, which is quite a community if you've ever been there. He's written several baseball songs, and they are in the National Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. You can look them up. Now, basically, this is a poem about Lefty, an old baseball pitcher who's just trying to hang on there. And he's really lost it, but he still has that love of the game. And we all have to come to the end of our career. I'm a bit sensitive to the lyrics in this poem song because I'm 70 years old and I play in a men's senior baseball league out of Clinton, Connecticut, and I am the oldest player in a 35 and over league. Soon I will be Lefty, as we all will be. Bill. But it's not today. We keep our stats and I hold my own. I pitch and I play second base. And I'm not on the team because I'm a charity case. But anyway, enough about me. Let's hear about Lefty. Lefty's in the minors. Got his shoulder packed in ice. He's trying to hang on there against all that good advice. Used to throw that sinker, but that sinker ball went south. And then they started calling him for going to his mouth. Lefty holds the record for most strikeouts in a game. Once upon a time, he really threw a ball of flame. Some wish he'd gone gracefully when his time finally came. They put Lefty on waivers, but nobody made a claim. It's a God almighty shame. He got too old to play the game. Where he made himself a name, and they called him Lefty. Lefty wore the pinstripes for a good number of years. The bleacher bums all loved him. They were tanked up in their beers. He used to throw that heater, but the radar does not lie. And now when Lefty lays one up there, you can kiss that thing goodbye. It's a God almighty shame. He got too old to play the game, where he made himself a name, and they called him Lefty. Now they're calling him out on a bullpen phone, some little field in bumfolk where the grass is overgrown. It's the bottom of the seventh, and a runner just got on, and they're calling for a lefty, but Lefty's not the one. There's a capital in Lefty, so say it with respect. He's Senor Lefty down in Mexico, and he's Lefty in Quebec. He could smoke you, he could fool you, throw a curve around your neck. He could paint one on the corners. He could fill the upper decks. But it's a God almighty shame. He got too old to play the game, where he made himself a name, and they called him Lefty.
Thank you for that. Anybody else?
I usually write about birds, but I couldn't resist. I had to find a baseball poem. So this is strictly for fun. When puppies play baseball. When puppies play baseball, they like to have fun. They race and they roll and they run in the sun. And they jump and they bump and they tumble all day. It's always exciting to watch them as they play. But nobody wins and they don't score at all, because if they catch it, they chew up the ball.
I'm not a connoisseur of baseball poetry, but I love baseball and I love the written word. So I found this poem this morning. I'm going to read it with my eyes right on the paper. Hope you like it. It's called Baseball, and the poet's name is Gail Mazer. The game of baseball is not a metaphor, and I know it's not really life. The chalky green diamond, the lovely dusty brown lanes I see from airplanes, multiplying around the cities, are only neat playing fields. Their structure is not the frame of history carved out of forest. That is not what I see on my ascent. And down in the stadium, the veteran catcher guiding the young pitcher through the innings. The line of concentration between them, that delicate filament, is not like the way you are helping me. Only it reminds me when I strain for analogies, the way a rookie strains for perfection, and the veteran in his wisdom seems to promise it. It glows from his upheld glove. And the man in front of me in the grandstand, drinking banana daiquiris from a thermos. Continuing through a whole dinner to the aromatic cigar, even as our team is shut out, nearly hitless. He is not like the farmer that Auden speaks of in Bruegel's Icarus, or the four inevitable woman-hating drunkards yelling, hugging each other, and moving up and down continuously for more beer. And the young wife, trying to understand what a full count could be, to please her husband, happy in his old dreams, or the little boy in the Yankees cap already nodding off to sleep against his father, program and popcorn memories sliding into the future. And the old woman from Lincoln, Maine, screaming at the Yankee slugger with wounded knees to break his leg. This is not a microcosm, not even a slice of life. And the terrible slumps when the greatest hitter mysteriously goes hitless for weeks, or the pitcher's stuff is all junk, who threw like a magician all last month, or the days when our guys look like Senate cops, slipping, bumping into each other, then suddenly the play that wasn't humanly possible, the kid we know isn't ready for the big leagues, leaps into the air to catch a ball that should have gone downtown, and coming off the field is hugged and bottom slapped by the sudden sorcerers, the winning team. The question of what makes a man slump when his form, his eye, his power aren't to blame. This isn't like the bad luck that hounds us, and his frustration in the game's not like our deep rage for disappointing ourselves. The ballpark is an artifact, manicured, safe, seen in an Easter egg, and the order of the ball game, the firm structure with the mystery of accidents always contained, not the wild field we wander in, where I'm trying to recite the rules, to repeat the statistics of the game, and the wind keeps carrying my words away.
We have another video selection from Jim Kelleher of Goshen. He's in Canada for the summer. So he sent me a poem, which was great, and then I asked him, would you please read it for us so we could get a recording. He did that, and then this afternoon he emailed me to say, I wish I were there. I just wrote a one-act play in poetic form about baseball. So we don't have that produced yet, but the guy just can't stop. Here's Jim Keller.
Hi, I'm Jim Kelleher, and I was born and raised in New York City, and I was a Yankee fan because they were about the only constant in my life. So the story that I've written down in verse is really a true story. People have said to me, this is a nice persona poem, but it may be that, but it's a true story. And it's about Babe Ruth, my first hero, because I was employed in the clubhouse with the Yankees. I was a bat boy, and that's how I knew the Babe. And there's this fiction that he somehow pointed with his bat that he was gonna hit his last home run, but that's not how it was at all. So my purpose here is to set the record straight. The title is The Bambino Curses Back. I loved the Babe. I was his clubhouse boy. I pressed his pinstripes, blacked his spikes, laced and oiled his leather Wilson glove. He drank Wild Turkey bourbon mostly. I was there when he pointed into the air. The reporters wrote he meant home run, but that wasn't his intent. To hell with the greedy owners, that's what he said. Now, Red Sox fans, they thought they were cursed, and they were, for their World Series jinx obsession. But Babe Ruth held no beef with Boston for shipping him to New York City for $100,000, because the Bambino knew what makes baseballs fly. Money, money, money. It was his middle finger he held up for the lords of baseball to see. The Yankees had released him. Oh, gray, pot-bellied and lame, Babe Ruth still had Yankee pride. He winked at me, kneeling in the on-deck circle. I don't use steroids, he said. Kid, I don't need them. How I loved him. He smacked his very last home run for me. And that's how it was. To hell with the greedy owners. To hell with them. Thank you, Sandy Carlson, for putting on this show.
Anybody have a second thought about a poem you want to share? All right, I'm going to offer one to this amazing evening. This is called Baseball. What you do for your family. Spent a lot of time on bleachers when my nephew was growing up playing all kinds of baseball. And when he was a scout, there was a tradition for a couple years of going down to Bridgeport, to Bluefish Stadium, watching a game and camping out. This is that. Baseball. What you do for your family. What wouldn't I do for you, dear nephew? Even sleep on the chemically treated outfield under all-night fluorescent lights, the warm breath of the power plant's smokestacks enveloping the stadium in mist, forming drops on the nylon walls of our tent, a toy more suitable for family rooms than an Atlantic League baseball game. I remember blue skies and your laughter, hot dogs, photographs, autographs, ice cream, late night runs as a group to the bathrooms, sleepy quiet breakfast at the diner. Gone is the game that would revive Bridgeport. Here, the aunt who loves you would learn this sport. Good old Bridgeport. All right, so now we're up to the point of having our Casey at the Back community read. And what we'd like to have is for people to come to the podium so that you're in front of the camera for your verse. Casey at the Back by Ernest Lawrence Thayer. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville 9 that day. The score stood 4-2 with but 1 inning more to play. And then when Cooney died at first and Barrows did the same, a pall-like silence fell upon the patrons of the game.
A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to the hope which springs eternal in the human breast. They thought, if only Casey could but get a whack at that, we'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat.
But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Ginny Blake, and the former was a hoodoo, while the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude, grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey getting to the bat.
But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted and men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe at second, and Flynn a hugging third.
Then from 5,000 throats and more, there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley, it rattled through the dell. It pounded on the mountain and recoiled upon the flat, for Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat.
There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing, and a smile lit Casey's face. And when, responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat.
10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. Then while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance flashed in Casey's eye. A sneer curled Casey's lip.
And now the leather-covered spear came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman, the balls unheeded sped. That ain't my style, said Casey. Strike one, the umpire said.
From the benches, black with people, there went up muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. Kill him! Kill the umpire! Shouted someone in the stand, and it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand.
The smile of Christian charity great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult, he bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the dun sphere flew, but Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, strike two.
Fraud! Cried the maddened thousands, and echo answered, fraud! But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again.
The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go, and now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow.
Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. Somewhere bands are playing, somewhere hearts are light, and somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. There is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out.
All righty, thank you everybody for being a part of our day. And please take some Cracker Jack and sunflower seeds if you have children in your life. Take some tree tongue, and then thank you. And you're more than welcome to mix and mingle and check out the quilt and the baseball. And thank you so much for being a part of our event. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paul Hensler, and here are some ramblings on the great American game. As I write this, our nation is celebrating the 4th of July, so it's fitting that my narrative's theme draws on a different bit of Americana. While the popularity of baseball has dipped due to incursions from football and distractions from other sports that have diverted the attention of athletically inclined youth programs, think soccer, lacrosse, and field hockey, there's still a good-sized chunk of the populace that enjoys flocking to a ballpark to take in the spectacle on the diamond. That marketing bromide of yesteryear, baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet, still resonates and has more than a whiff of nostalgia even in the modern age. Like many older fans, I confess that some aspects of the modern national pastime bore me, if not turn me off completely. When I first joined the Society for American Baseball Research in the summer of 1979, statistics were in the process of being revamped because analytical methods were changing, yet the comforts of batting average, RBIs, and earned run average never deserted us. Now in the 21st century, we fans are deluged with stats that are seemingly created for their own sake, but obviously have meaning to somebody. And today's ubiquitous smartphone has robbed us of the impulse to learn and retain minutiae that used to be the stock and trade of trivia experts. You can't trick anyone by asking who the New York Yankees received in exchange from the California Angels when they traded Bobby Bonds to the West Coast team, but a few taps on the phone quickly reveal the answer. I know the answer, but I'll bet you're reaching for your phone now, aren't you? But let's not digress too much. The inherent beauty of baseball's simple and time-honored elements still means that 3 strikes and you're out, 90 feet is the distance between the bases, and there are 3 outs to an inning. The passing of these inviolable principles from one generation to the next preserves the sanctity and tradition of a game that anybody can play. If we step back about 200 years ago, a rudimentary form of baseball called town ball was played by men in locally organized clubs, but over succeeding decades, various styles of the game merged and morphed to become today's standardized version, with some tweaks here and there along the way. The demographic of the players has undergone sea changes, and the availability of easier to play versions of baseball has made the sport more accessible over the years. From slow pitch softball to backyard games of home run derby with a plastic bat and wiffle ball, these varieties of the grand old game are augmented further by the development of t-ball for the youngest of children, Little League, Scholastic girls, and collegiate women's fast pitch softball, as well as real baseball for women too, twilight baseball leagues for adults beyond their college years, and a kids and Cubs group for seniors in St. Petersburg, Florida. You have to be at least 75 years old to play, and it's softball rather than baseball, but still. For the visually impaired, there's even beep baseball, and youth with other limitations can participate in challenger little leagues that employ an adopted style of play. For those in central Connecticut who recall seeing minor league games at Waterbury's dimly lit and some might say decrepit municipal stadium, which hosted a bevy of AA teams from the 1960s through the 1980s, there's no starker contrast than to step through the gates of Duncan Park in Hartford today. Named several times as the best minor league stadium in the country, this ballpark caters to modern sensibilities and provides the amenities demanded by today's fans. Plus, the cost of admission is easier on the pocketbook than taking a game at the major league level. Although getting yard goat tickets can be a bit of a chore given the popularity of this neat park, the experience of being there is worth the effort. Taking the above into account, I think of Mark Twain, who once said that news of his demise was premature. Applying this concept to the national pastime, yes, it's taken its share of hits, no pun intended, at the professional level over the years. Labor strife, the paring down of minor leagues and franchises, drug scandals, and other unsavory events that have placed the game in an unflattering light. But please point out any enterprise that hasn't also endured its own trials and tribulations. The state of the game, by all outward appearances, is healthy, except in the city of Oakland, where the long tenured A's are heading to Las Vegas, but never mind. That team was founded in Philadelphia at the turn of the last century, moved to Kansas City in 1955, transferred to the Bay Area in 1968, and is soon to be bound for Sin City. Oh well, home is where the heart is, wherever that may be, and at least the A's simply relocate rather than go out of business. For all the flack lately about pitch clocks, prohibitions of shifts, too many analytics, and the looming possibility of automated umpiring, the game of baseball soldiers on. And isn't it terrific when a once-in-a-lifetime player comes along whose talent is so immense that it prompts a change to the rules? Here I'm referring to Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Angels, and he plays for my team, who pitches and can serve as the DH even upon his removal from the mound. It's rare indeed that a solitary figure can serve in such a dual role and deliver that kind of impact to the game's regulations. While baseballreference.com holds its charms like quick access to the transaction history of every major league player, the romantic in me finally recalls those visits in the 1980s to Huntington's bookstore in downtown Hartford, when late March meant that the staff had to set up an entire table dedicated to the newly published baseball titles as opening day drew near. Browsers and buyers were like kids in a candy store after a fashion, especially so when every third year the massive updated baseball encyclopedia from Macmillan was released. You can't fit an 8-pound book in your pocket, yet neither does one get the tactile satisfaction of hefting a crafted tome from tapping an iPhone to get information in real time. Curiously, less is more can apply in either case. For the nonce, however, let's continue to thank the sports gods for allowing action on the diamond to entertain us in all its marvelous forms. As for that old General Motors cliche, I've seldom driven a Chevy, let alone owned one, and right now it's a little too hot to think about a slice of warm apple pie. But baseball? Check. Hot dogs? Check. With mustard and kraut washed down with a cold one. Thanks for listening.
If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball.